Hey everyone, Aaron here, and this is anime review number 73. And today's review is going to be of Aquarion Evol, or Love Backwards. Actually, they won't tell you that in the end of the show, like till the very last episode, that is Love Backwards. So Evil, ironically, is Love Backwards, which is funny. I don't know if there's a reason for that specifically or what, but it's still stupid. And actually, fittingly, this show is stupid. If you watched my top 10 most underappreciated anime, which I highly recommend checking that out, I actually talked about Aquarion and what I loved about it and why I felt it was very underappreciated, because I think not enough people talk about it or even show it the love that it deserves. And for me personally, when I finished Aquarion, I was left with such good emotions with that. I love the show. I watched it actually not that long ago. I watched it again. I thought it was an awesome show still. But I was left with this concept that, like, oh, I need more of this. I really do want more of this. And sometimes you ever hear the old saying, be careful what you wish for? It's fitting for this, because when Aquarion Evil was announced, I was like, oh wow, that I got what I wanted. There's gonna be a sequel to it. It was quite some time after the first one, so I didn't even think a sequel was even gonna happen or be possible. But I was so happy because I'm like, maybe they'll have some more concepts, character concepts from the first one. Maybe explain some story elements that weren't fully, explored in the first season. It had a lot of possibilities. What Aquarion Evol did was actually threw out everything that made the first series so great and destroyed it. Like, think of like a piece of paper just crumpling in your hand. How about you drew something on it that was wonderful, and then someone takes it from you and just crumples it. That is what my emotions are for the second season of Aquarion, essentially. Now, why is Aquarion Evil so bad? Why do I have such disdain for it? There's a couple of reasons for that, but we'll talk about the review first. Let's explain some of the synopsis for the show. So this takes place, and they won't tell you immediately, but this takes place many thousands and thousands of years later after the first season. So the world's a different place entirely. It's more futuristic. They're still running academy for actual students to learn how to pilot the Aquarion, but they have to learn how to pilot different mechs before they pilot the Aquarion, which was kind of cool. I kind of dig the whole concept of having a whole new cast of characters. The main character is Amada, who is this really kind of shy guy. He's pretty cool. He has an latent ability to actually be able to float, but he can't control it very well. And apparently everyone in the show actually has latent elemental powers. They can use elements like the rocks of their earth. They can use elements like wind, etc., etc. It's a pretty cool concept. That's where the show is, I think, the strongest, is having these characters all represent elements and then being called elements. That's what their title in the show is. Amada meets a main character also, who's going to be the main female protagonist, called Mikuno, who is a very cool looking character. I liked her art style for her, and I think you can see it right there. She's at the left of the main character. The main character is the one with the red vest. I like the way she looks. I think she's not too typical for your average anime. I think she actually doesn't show off like the usual concepts, like, oh, big busty girl, or the usual tropes of anime. It doesn't do that with Mikono, which is really cool. I liked it. The problem is then where the show completely starts going away from what made Aquarion so cool. You have the whole new plot of a familiar character coming up who might represent the first guy from Aquarion, who seems to know a lot about both Mikono and Amada, and it seems like almost that there's going to be this grandiose plot that's going to come into play where, oh, he's after her because he's secretly one of the descendants of one of the other people that died in the first series. No. What this show does is it actually takes every concept of the first season, and I said this already, but I'm going to say it again so I can explain it to you guys, and completely removes it by changing everything. They actually even changed some of the plot points for the first season and this whole different arc style. There's some characters do return from the first season, albeit they're not the same characters they were once before, but it just completely butchers everything and changes all these concepts, not in a good way. What they actually do is they take character concepts that worked very well in the first season and decided, let's get rid of that, let's make them different characters, and let's make them different reasons for existence, and it just utterly destroys the image of the first season, which, again, I loved the first series. Aquarion Vanilla was so awesome to me, and to then have this come out, which wasn't, this is your atypical mech show. This has the love triangles where one other character loves the main character, which, by the way, is obviously the girl on the right. The other girl, the actual main girl, Mikono, loves him, but she's not showing it. Secretly, they're also bonded together without realizing it. It's so atypical, but even more so, it's just cliched all around. Everything that happens in the show is your typical mech concept of, you know, the giant mech fights, the typical characters that don't know how to pilot, but then all of a sudden have latent powers to actually pilot mechs. And that was my first major, like, infuriating moment of the show, was just getting so pissed off when I saw that. Because I love the way they handled the first season, which, you know, that was so done so well. And, you know, some of you might think, oh, well, maybe you just have too much love for the first season, maybe it makes it so you're jaded to the second season. No, you know, me personally, I watch a sequel, and I try to, you know, only see what's coming out of it from the first season. If it's trying to be something completely different, I don't hold it against it. There's plenty of sequels I've watched. Like, for example, take Shauna, for example. Shauna has multiple sequels. They're all very good. The Familiar Zero has a lot of sequels that are very good. You know, there's a lot of shows. Gundam has multiple seasons that are decent, and then some sequels that aren't that great, but they have different concepts about them, and they work so well. Aquarion Evol does not work well. It's just very cliched again. It's very typical. It has main protagonist is likable initially, but then later on is just always very stupid for what he's portraying and what he's portrayed as. He just comes off kind of stupid. He has courage. He has the concepts of it, but it just does not come off very well. I don't know if when they were writing him, they decided to go a different way midway through it. But just honestly, he doesn't deviate enough to show growth as a character. And that's one of also the major issues, is the character concepts and the character plot lines don't grow with the series. You know, that's one of my big pet peeves of any anime, is not having characters grow as time goes by. Because as people in general, you grow, you get older, you change, you mature. You know, if things happen to you, tragic events or serious moments of your life happen, you grow as a person. And I like anime that represents that, because that's something that is, no matter what, inescapable. You have to have that concept of growth. This show doesn't do that. Every character stays the same almost. You know, the supporting characters are actually more enjoyable than the main cast of characters, which is very bad to me. I think that's kind of ironic when your main characters take center stage and yet they shouldn't be there. It should be actually the support characters that should be center stage. And lo and behold, if you actually watch the show, you'll be like, oh, these characters are more interesting, let me focus on them. But honestly, you know, I don't want to keep on the hate train of Aquarion Evol. Let me talk about some good things about it. It does have some nice art. It really looks very nice. It uses a lot of the color concepts of the first season, which really every character has a lot of color to them. Especially the mechs themselves have a lot of concept design, which embodies color. You know, so the elemental concepts like fire, earth, and such are really shown off when they're in the mechs, and, you know, they're piloting whatever mech, the version of Aquarion they're actually using. Which, by the way, I forgot to explain. Aquarion actually can be piloted by multiple people, but it changes the shape depending on who actually is piloting, which is kind of cool. I always thought that concept was cool. But overall, you know, Aquarion Evol is something that it's a sequel that was unneeded, and even more so, it's just a sequel that's not done very well. So because of that, if I had to review this A through F, I have to give it a C-. You know, it might seem like it should get a D or D+, but it's honestly still a sequel that has elements that are decent about it. There are some, you know, again, the mech battles are cool. The ending actually does end on a pretty decent note despite everything else. But because they ruined everything else about it, I'm almost tempted to actually change what I just said and give it a D+, but I don't want to give it a bad score just because I hated it. You know, there's still some things that you might like if you like Aquarion that is here. It's like, for example, it's the concepts here and the characters here, but it's just been jaded and twisted around, if that makes any sense. But anyways, guys, that's it for this review. I hope you guys liked it. Please rate, not rate. I wasn't even around during the time of rating system, so I don't know why I say please rate the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. That really helps my channel out a lot. And as always, guys, until I pass across again in the next review, have a good one, everyone. Bye.